Hello, this is Michael Brown with Avalon Risk Management, your premier provider of insurance and surety solutions for the transportation industry. In our last episode, Kathy Schricker discussed the fact that even before Map-21, there were and still are exceptions to the requirement to be licensed as either a transportation broker or surface freight forwarder in order to arrange for the transportation of property by motor carrier for compensation. We further discussed, however, that these exceptions were quite limited. While companies may arrange for exempt shipments from time to time, most will regularly handle non-exempt cargo. This brings us to Map-21. Map-21 adds 3 new exceptions to the licensing requirements, one each for OTIs, customs brokers, and indirect air carriers. On closer inspection, however, the language in the law is less than clear. For OTIs, the exception to the requirement to be registered and bonded applies to NVOCCs or ocean forwarders, and I quote, when arranging for inland transportation as part of an international through movement involving ocean transportation between the United States and a foreign port. There is considerable disagreement as to what this actually means. It's being interpreted by some that only cargo moving under a through-door master bill of lading would meet the exception. Similarly, Map-21 creates an exception for customs brokers, quote, only to the extent that the customs broker is engaging in a movement under a customs bond or in a transaction involving customs business. While the in-bond portion of this language seems rather concise, the concept of a, quote, transaction involving customs business is less so. Customs and Border Protection has ruled in the past that arranging for the transport of cargo by truck does not constitute customs business. This focuses attention on the meaning of the word transaction in the language. If the transaction were defined broadly enough to encompass the customs entry, then the exception would likely apply. If not, then a transportation broker or surface freight forwarder registration and bond would be required. Finally, Map-21 exempts, quote, an indirect air carrier holding a standard security program approved by the Transportation Security Administration, only to the extent that the indirect air carrier is engaging in the activities as an air carrier. To summarize, the language in Map-21 granting exceptions is somewhat unclear in its scope. The FMCSA themselves do not appear ready to take a firm position on the matter. Even if and when they do, while the agency can control their own enforcement actions, it will likely be difficult, if not impossible, to prevent private party actions against unlicensed entities where the ambiguity in the law's language will come into question. Finally, even if the ambiguity and the exceptions did not exist, most companies likely become involved in shipments that are significantly removed from the international transportation or customs transaction. Pick and pack, post-entry warehousing, and subsequent transportation and returns come to mind. In these cases, registration would be required. Given the lack of clarity, we believe that most companies that arrange for transportation by truck should immediately register for authority with the FMCSA. Doing so could prevent private party claims as well as regulatory actions while also defining your role in the transaction. Transportation brokers are arrangers and do not, by regulation, assume liability for the property being transported. This distinction can be helpful when cargo claims occur. When you register for authority with the FMCSA, you will also need to meet the new financial responsibility requirements enacted by Map-21. We will cover this important topic in our next episode. Thanks for watching.